This week's episode is brought to you by Colorado Junk Removal.
No more junk, no more stress.
Got some junk laying around the house? You know, that refrigerator that hasn't worked in 2 years.
Yeah, the washer that you said you were going to fix, but you never have.
Absolutely. That couch that's got a big hole in it that you're not probably ever going to give to anybody.
Fence posts that you're never going to fix either. I see
Exactly.
a trend here.
Yeah. Then you need to call Colorado Junk Removal.
What's that number, Dan?
719-249-1717.
You know what? You can also visit them on the web at coloradojunk.com. Or you can send them an email, cojunkremoval@gmail.com.
That's right. Or give them a call. Like we said, 719-249-1717. Matt will come take care of all of your junk.
And remember, no more junk, no more stress. Good. All right, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
5, 4, 3. Wait, let me pull everything up.
Let me make sure I'm recording stuff. All good, all good.
Quite good. Attack warning. Is it for real? Attack warning. It's for bloody real.
Live from Colorado Springs, the Drop Culture Podcast.
I want to confirm, is this an exercise? Roger, copy. This is not an exercise.
Come on, quick, get down. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome, everybody, to the Drop Culture Podcast. That was a lot of pressure.
It was,
There was
wasn't it?
things were happening.
I
There were
know.
technical difficulties. There was numbers being shouted at me. Yeah, it was crazy.
Okay,
but anyways, here we are at the Drop Culture Podcast.
Drop Culture.
Welcome in
Welcome in.
and welcome back.
Yes. We're the fast food joint. We're actually the podcast that doesn't forget your goddamn condiments.
That's 100%.
We give you extra condiments with our podcast, extra things to chew on in your ears.
a lot of extra things.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yep, that's what we do.
And diverse.
You know, if you were to go through the Drop Culture drive-through, you would find an extra burrito in your bag. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. And
And it
you'd
wouldn't
be like-
cost you a thing.
Yeah, you'd be like, damn, they gave me an extra burrito. I
And it
like
was
going to
free.
that place because
That
I'm
was
gonna,
so cool.
yeah, because I'm gonna always go to that Drop Culture burrito place because I get a free burrito every time. Damn, that's how we bring it. This is our Thursday episode.
Yeah.
What do we do on Thursdays, Dan?
This is where we find that piece of pop culture that you forgot about or missed, shine it up real nice, and cram it in your ear holes.
You know, how many episodes is this now? It's been a lot.
205, I don't know.
209, something like that.
Yeah, something.
It only shows like 109 or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, but that's because our quick cast, we only keep
Yeah.
2 or 3 on at a time.
That's Monday. So if you listen to us, you know, on Monday we kind of go on our
We're
little...
just jacking around, talking about movie, TV,
Yeah, it's our
music, whatever.
Divergent series.
Yeah, we just we screw around.
It's the Mentally Divergent Podcast. That's
So yeah, I mean, you should go and enjoy it because we're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
screwing around. It's fun.
It's great. And if you want to listen to that, you can go to dropculture.com or you can hit us up on Facebook, find the links to it, hit us up on Twitter. Anywhere Drop Culture podcasts are sold, we're there.
That's right, absolutely.
And our profile for podcastersonly.com is actually growing.
yes, it is.
It's pretty weird.
It's a little crazy.
Pretty weird. We have a lot of coin collectors on it. I don't know why.
It's strange.
Yeah.
A lot of stamp collectors as well. That's what really stood out to me. I was like, wow.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
So what movie were we talking about this week?
We are talking about a little 1986 film. Before we get into it, Brock, 1986, what's the first movie that pops to your head?
Aliens.
I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about aliens tonight.
Mm-mm.
We're talking about The Fly.
I think you're making a mistake. I think you really want to talk to me.
Sorry, I have 3 other interviews to do before this party's over.
Yeah, but they're not working on something that'll change the world as we know it.
They say they are.
Yeah, but they're lying.
There is a limit, even to the imagination.
Human teleportation, molecular decimation, breakdown, and reformation is inherently purging.
Where our greatest creations meet our deepest fears.
Something went wrong, Seth. When you went through, something went wrong.
You are about to go beyond that limit.
Those weird hairs that were growing out of your back, I had them analyzed. But they were definitely not human. If you saw how scared and angry and desperate he...
I'm sure Typhoid Mary was a very nice person, too, when you saw her socially.
No!
You're afraid to be destroyed and recreated, aren't you?
You're changing, Seth. Everything about you is changing.
Oh, no. What's happening to me? Am I dying?
I want to know what's going on.
What does the disease want?
Wants to turn me into something else.
Oh, no.
A fly got into the transmitter pod with me that first time when I was alone.
Don't go back to it. Could be contagious.
I'm afraid!
Don't be afraid.
No. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Help me. Please, help me.
The Fly.
Yeah, last week we did Vincent Price, 1958 Fly.
Yeah, so if you didn't listen to that, you can jump back in the archives and check that out anytime.
Right.
At all the places that you get podcasts, just like Brock said.
Correct. We covered that one because that movie is badass.
It's good.
Right? And it's a great movie. It's not a horror movie. It's not... Just like this one's not a horror movie.
Oh,
either.
this one is. This is a different kind of horror.
It's just
horror
gross...
is a broad
Yeah.
spectrum, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this has, I think, implications of horror. I
Okay.
can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still don't consider it more sci-fi, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I mean, but I could see it be a horror movie for other folks.
Right.
You know, that brand of horror.
Well,
It's that body horror,
yeah.
as
I know.
we discussed.
Ooh. But this one, David Cronenberg's The Fly.
Yes.
Jeff Goldblum, fresh off the success of Buckaroo Banzai.
Truth. Gina Davis,
Fresh off of nothing.
fresh off of...
Transylvania 5009 or something like
no,
that.
No.
Earth
I was
Girls
going
Are
to say
Easy.
fresh off Jeff Goldblum's dick.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, because that's how she got the job.
Yeah, she was in Transylvania.
65000.
Yeah. With the dude that invented the electric car or something.
I don't remember. I don't. Those weren't the right numbers either. I don't know.
Maybe Gina Davis's boobs were in that one. I don't remember.
You only get side boob in this.
Yeah, you get a little side boob in it. And then Earth Girls Are Easy. Never watched it.
Nah, I never watched.
Yeah.
It. Wasn't Jeff Goldblum in that with her? I think that's where they met and started dating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And Jeff,
which is weird.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum, of course, was one of the stars of Buckaroo Banzai, which was a tremendous movie for him.
I'm sure that's where he got all his chops. Yes,
I think so. You know what I mean? Come on, you're acting alongside Dr. Peter Weller,
and you have to wear this stupid cowboy outfit.
Right? What? Yeah, he acted with the greats. He picked it all up in that one, and then he gets this one. This is the first movie I really ever saw Jeff Goldblum in. This is the one I think that really put him on a map.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit because when Cronenberg was casting, all these actors had turned down the role because they didn't want. And Cronenberg said this in an interview. They didn't want to try to act behind the rubber,
Right.
Being the makeup and all that,
Right.
all the stuff, and Goldblum embraced it right away. He's like, "This will be awesome," like almost like testing his acting ability.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see that.
I totally see that.
Well, I mean, he embodies a character that is truly Jeff Goldblum. You know, you always, whenever you think of Jeff Goldblum, I really think of him from this movie is one of the very first things that pops in my head. I'm like, oh, he's the Fly. He's Brundlefly.
Right.
You know, I mean, because he's a badass in this movie. There's a lot of, it's not so Jeff Goldblum-y, but
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in later years, but in this one, it's like you're getting that first like dose of Goldblum.
Yeah, 100%.
And you're like, God dang, he's a good actor.
Gina Davis, not a bad actor either. I mean, she was in, A League of Their Own and
what is that?
Other movies.
Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah.
Which that was a good one.
That was a good one.
What was the pirate one where she was the Dread Pirate Roberts? She was in a pirate movie.
Yeah, she was in a bunch of movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're like
cool
the perfect couple.
Yeah.
Because Jeff Goldblum's like 6'5".
Yeah, and she's
6'1".
Damn.
So they look normal together.
Right.
So it's almost perfect for them to date and be like, let's get on movies together.
Yeah.
Because you look perfect and great.
We work together.
Yes.
I don't have to look down to you.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So David Cronenberg had done, a whole bunch of movies before this. Scanners, The Brood.
Shivers, was that before this? I think that was...
Yeah. The Brood, I just watched that one the other day. Every one of his movies, I'm like, oh, God, that's so gross. But, of course, and he even makes a cameo in this. He's made cameos in other movies, too. Just because
when we get to that, there's actually a story behind that on why he's in that.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And we'll just say it now, but there's a birthing scene in this. And the person who was supposed to play the OB guy, Gina Davis, was like, I hate him. I don't want him between my legs. I hate him. And she made him do it that day. She's like, you have to do it.
Oh, well, I read that somebody said he looked like a doctor, and he looked like some hotshot LA doctor, and then so he kind of remembered that and decided that he wanted to. So God knows what the real story is.
That was Cronenberg in an interview from 2015.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, oh,
so I mean, I'm going with the source if that's what he says.
Yeah, that's Cronenberg.
Yeah.
Which I mean, Scanners, bitchin' movie, weird movie. His characters in all of his movies have the craziest fucking names, right? For one, and for two, like that actor that was in Scanners, not the bad guy, not Rennick or Remick or whatever his name is, but the other dude. That's all I got to say about that. I'm like, why is that guy? What?
That's what he got.
Right.
Like, this is how much money I have.
Yeah, he's like, I made Scanners money.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, and you're eating hot dogs off of somebody's freaking tray at the mall.
I think what's awesome is Cronenberg said, I don't, is he's still alive, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know he was like 72 in 2015.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
I think he said that. I'm pretty sure that's what he said because he was talking about how it was different when he was in his 40s. Obviously perspectives change over time. And I think the interviewer asked kind of a wacky question there, and he kind of just flipped it to, yeah, of course your perspective changes. I'm 72 now.
Yeah, I'm old.
He said that.
Yeah, I'm old, motherfucker.
But he never watched any of his own movies.
No, he's
never. And he's like, maybe someday when I have Alzheimer's and I forget.
Yeah, he lived.
I made those movies.
Yeah.
Then I'll watch them. I'll be like, oh, this is good. Who made
it? That's like my style. Wait a minute. My name was at the beginning. There's a lot of there's a lot of great things about this movie, but I would have to say, like straight off the bat, that this is one of the absolute best remakes of a movie ever. There's a couple more that come to mind.
We shouldn't talk about any of the other ones because that'll be an episode in the future.
Yeah.
On a top 5 episode, they'll be coming up, actually.
They all kind of...
But you are right. This is going to be in my top 5.
Yeah, they were all kind of...
Spoiler alert.
In the same years, too.
Okay, I'll buy that.
They were very, very close together. So, I mean, even like Goldblum wrote Vincent Price and said, hey, I'm going to be doing this, and I hope I do as good as you did. And I hope you like it as much as I loved your performance, right? So, of course, Vincent Price writes back and was like, after he went and saw it and was like, oh my God, that was great, except for it went a little too far.
I could see that.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, perspective change.
Right.
You go from him in the 50s till whenever he was like 70 or 80, whenever this came out. And he's like, ugh, good God.
Well, horror was a different story back then, the kind of horror he did anyways.
Yeah. And but this one was great too when it comes down to the horror part of it, because it was a monster movie, horror movie, sci-fi movie.
Right.
But it was more, I don't know. It was kind of like the original. It was kind of a mystery, but this one was more on the surface.
Yeah, a lot more on the surface, I think. The first 30 minutes, I mean, you're really getting to know the characters. And then after that, it progresses. And this movie's only, an hour and 35 minutes long?
Something like that.
So the first, I'd say 30, 35 minutes, you're going to get the backstory. And then everything else is pretty much him moving forward, from the point in the movie where we know what happens. And if you don't, I'm going to spoil it because you should have listened to last week's episode, and you still can.
Right. Well, I
but
mean,
when after the change, after the event happens, he tries it on himself. That's when, it just keeps progressing pretty quickly from that point.
It really does. You can
fast paced, not fast paced, but well paced. I'll say.
What was really cool about the pace is at the very beginning, it starts, boom.
Yes.
At the very end, it ends, boom.
Yep.
It doesn't give you that, let's talk about this and let's have this wrap up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or here's a big intro.
No,
it just
it's
starts.
like black screen, The Fly, boom, they're at a party, and he's like, yeah, I'm changing the world. You're like, what the?
Yeah, they're at a science convention for the company that he works for. I can't remember the name of it.
Bartok or something.
Bartok, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And that's where, pretty much right away you get Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis, she's a reporter, and he's a scientist that works for this company.
Right.
And, they get together.
Yeah, it's like instant. She's like driving an old Volvo from the 50s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But before we get too far into the story, I think we should talk about, I know you and I were talking about this earlier, this was produced by Mel Brooks.
I know.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's like,
and we both, as we said, neither one of us knew that,
until
doing research for this episode.
Right.
But it makes sense, as we were talking earlier, because Mel Brooks, was also a producer on The Elephant Man.
Yeah.
And, again,
you know what
he understood that it was time to.
Right. It was like, hey, let's do this. Let's give somebody else this shot, because he was into that kind of stuff.
Right.
Even though he was a comedy guy.
Right.
But he could tell the genius in certain other people.
Well, and even I agree with that, but also that there was potential within something that he saw could be awesome, but not for him.
Yes, correct. Yeah. He was like, you know what? This can be under my production, people, but you go ahead and do this.
Right.
I will start picking people. Because, again, with The Elephant Man, was David Lynch, which was a freaking tremendous movie.
Absolutely.
Badass. Love that movie.
Great director.
Yeah, Anthony Hopkins. There's so many good things about that movie.
Absolutely.
It's just badass. You know what I mean? And it looks so real with the effects, right? I don't think that they had an award for effects. Okay, like the
Back
dudes,
then.
yeah, because the dudes from Planet of the Apes would have won an effects award.
Right.
All the way up to whatever, makeup effects. They didn't have that.
Sure.
But they introduced that category during this year, I think.
Oh, okay.
Maybe the year before this year or something like that.
Okay.
But the guy that did the makeup effects got an Academy Award for it.
Nice.
Which is kind of crazy, because if you watch The Elephant Man, the Elephant Man was grotesque, but in real life he looked like that.
Right.
And the way that they captured that, because that was John Hurt inside that makeup too, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And Jesus, it looked real.
Yeah.
And in this one, Cronenberg's going to have a lot of KY jelly and slime and, weird shit coming out of stuff, and blood, a lot of blood.
People bleed for a while sometimes.
I know, right? And especially, I mean, things blow apart.
That for no reason.
Yeah,
At times, yes.
Crazy,
Yeah.
right? But it wasn't like it's just gross in a way that you're like, ugh, that's unsettling. You know, ugh.
Yeah. Again, I think it falls into, it's definitely a sci-fi movie, like you said, but it's also a monster movie. It's also a horror movie because it focuses more on the transition from that form to the other form more than the previous one we saw.
Yeah, no, that one was
just like, oh, I got an arm and I got a head. I'm a fly man.
This one they went into detail where the DNA was being put together.
Absolutely.
And they had the DNA.
This takes it in a whole different direction.
Correct.
I mean, it's the same story, but it's not the same story.
Right.
So they're different. But Cronenberg even said that, like, the script that they got, I'll only do this if I can rewrite it.
Yep.
And he did. But then afterwards, and he rewrote almost all the dialogue, everything, right? Except for the idea of the DNA splicing and all that. So he actually went to an arbitration meeting or whatever to make sure that the guy that wrote the script before
got credit.
That's
right.
I'm like, what a cool dude, man.
I know. Yeah.
That's legit.
But also,
you don't hear about that stuff in Hollywood very much.
Yeah, not really. I mean, people fighting for the writers.
Yeah.
You know, they're usually like, put my name on it because I rewrote one word in it.
Right.
I put this word instead of that word.
Well, I actually wrote 4 pages, but that's the most of anybody else who wrote on this whole script.
Right.
And so therefore I get the credit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, now I'm a PGA too because I told you where to put the camera.
I'll tell you where to put the camera.
Yeah. But another thing that they saw was Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Before Jeff Goldblum had really, again, like I said, kind of at the beginning of this, this is the movie that put him on the map as a legitimate star.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, of course, nobody's going to look at Jeff Goldblum right up front back in the day and be like, this dude is like fucking Mel Gibson right now.
Right,
you know what I
right.
mean? Which they did offer the role to him.
Right.
And he took Lethal Weapon instead.
Think how weird that would have been. And the only reason I say that is because we just mentioned earlier that Jeff Goldblum's like 6'5".
Yeah.
And Mel Gibson's like 4'2". No, he's like 5'6" or something like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So like, you almost lose a whole foot.
Right. Goldblum is intimidating. He's got a weird swagger in his walk.
And he's cut.
Yeah. In this movie, I mean, he's like, I don't know. He really looks like he could be doing all the physically fit stuff.
Right.
You
Maybe
know what I
not
mean?
the stuff that happens in this movie. But
Yeah.
Those guys are credited.
Yeah. Yeah. But this was a really big thing for him. And there's not that many characters in this movie all the way through, right? You have your arbitrary characters to kind of move the plot along, but nothing really too serious. The only other person that's really a principal actor in this is John Getz, which that dude's, I mean, the total asshole
100%
of the 80s, besides the Alpha Betas from fucking Revenge of the Nerds. You know, those guys like Raj and you know, Ogre and shit like that. Those guys are the one you're like, don't trust those motherfuckers. You know, they're Alpha Betas. I'll never trust an Alpha Beta.
Quintessential villains.
Yeah, but this guy ended up being the hero.
Yeah.
In a weird way. Yeah. So, but I don't know. He has done a lot of stuff too, you know.
Absolutely. And this was Cronenberg's best, like, most profitable film. This is his biggest film by far. And there's a lot of, like, I was reading that different numbers for the budget, like 15 million, blah, blah, blah. And I did hear in that same interview, that 2015 interview, maybe I can throw a link in the description. I won't promise that. Use your Google foo, you'll be fine. But that it was 11 million is what he said. So that split the difference, because I had heard like as low as like 9 or something like that.
9 to 15. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I had heard. But it made like 60 million, I think.
60 million at the box office.
Yeah.
You know,
how crazy is that? That's a successful movie.
That is a very successful movie when it comes to Hollywood money.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But I misspoke last week when we were talking about Fox being put on the map by fucking The Fly. Now, there was a lot more movies that Fox was doing at the time. I just looked at this movie thinking, oh, the old 58 one thinking, oh, well, but they were doing Cleopatra.
That's true.
Yeah, so I misspoke, and I apologize for that. Anybody listening?
People make mistakes. It's all good.
But, all right, let's go ahead and get into this movie. So it starts off with like we were saying. I mean, it just immediately kicks in. They're at some mixer, the Catalina wine mixer. You know what I mean? And they're like kind of hanging
at the Bartok Science
convention,
press conference. I think.
So you don't even see how they get approached or how they get there. Nothing.
Right.
He's just like, hey, I'm going to change the world. She's like, whatever.
Everybody says that.
Yeah, well, come on.
They're liars.
Yeah, hop in my 1986 Volvo. We'll go to your place.
Right.
Like, who would do that? Like, in real life?
And it's like an industrial area.
Right. She's like, this is your place. This is weird.
It's much cleaner.
Yeah. Right. It's like an old building that they kind of throw in there. And, the first thing
where you'd have a lab.
Right.
Yeah.
First thing he does is sit there and play the piano because Jeff Goldblum is a awesome piano player, and he goes in and he just kind of like he must have been drinking because before she's like when they're in the car she's like, oh, you have too much to drink. No, he's get car sick, air sick, boat sick, whatever sick. Which is kind of weird, I mean, a lot of people will get that way. So that kind of gives you an insight on how he was thinking, let's do this disintegrator integrator.
Yeah.
Type
That's
of
his
thing.
motivation.
Right.
Sure.
It's basically
because he has motion sickness.
There you go. So he doesn't have to have that motion sickness.
Right. He was doing it from a place of relieving his own problem.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. And so they get in there and she's like, so what am I looking at? These refrigerators? He's like, no. Let me show you. And so he's like, do you have a piece of jewelry?
Personal.
Yeah. What do you have? You got a piece of jewelry? And she's like, I don't like jewelry. Takes off her stocking, right? Has to hike up her skirt and everything like that. And she's like, here you go. And he's like, okay. So then he moves it and she's like, oh my God, that's like the coolest thing in the world. Right? So she pushes record on the tape and you don't really find out, up until that point who he was working for. Cause like he starts telling her, they're like, don't they know about this? Why doesn't anybody know about this?
Because I'm cheap. And they know they're going to own whatever I'm doing anyway.
Yeah, they own everything from it. I'm very inexpensive. I give everybody else the plans to build something, and I just put it together.
Right.
So I didn't build anything. Right. I just basically said, hey, do this. So, yeah, they leave me alone, So he has a voice-activated computer, which is awesome. Yeah. I mean, the whole place is like pretty badass, but that's the one mainstay between the 1958 Fly and this Fly, which I don't know why it's so important. But the sliding metal door, that was in both of them.
Yeah,
they had to keep it like that. So whatever, it was an homage, I guess. So of course, the tape stops, and she's like, "Oh, let me flip the sides." He's like, "Whoa. Right. Can't do that. Don't let anybody know.
You're this. Give me that tape.
Yeah, this is not right. She's like, well, I am a journalist. He's like, yeah, but I thought you were just coming over. He's like, but I am a journalist.
Yeah, right.
So I was sent there for a story, and I got the story of the century.
Right.
All travel is going to be obsolete. They're going to be able to ship massive amounts of things over there, but the only thing that he can't do is organic matter.
Okay, let's stop right there for just a half a second. We're going to digress for just a second. So let's say you can build a teleporter, and it does every inanimate object just awesome, but you can't put living things in it. I already have a marketable tool.
Yeah.
You know how much the government alone for being able to, hey, here's weapons and munition? Like you get into a battlefield and you just drop a pod.
Mm-hmm. It's like, whoa, go.
Just from that, you're $1 billion company.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But people are always going to be like, what happens if I get in
That's not my fault. I put a little sign that
Yeah.
says "not for human, whatever," or "not for living things." You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's gonna come
Inanimate
out.
objects only.
Yeah,
You have to sign a waiver.
or like it wouldn't transport if there was organic matter in it.
Yeah,
or something
maybe
like
it's a
that.
sensor. It just says "get the fuck out."
Yeah, something like that, right?
And you could voice it with whatever voice you wanted to, like
Right.
Samuel L. Jackson.
So get out of here, motherfucker.
So that's a digression.
Okay, so so the next day happens, right? And she's in the office with number
Thurman
one
Munson or whatever.
yeah, number one douchebag, right?
What was his name? Because his name was terrible.
It's a crazy name, like I said. Like Cronenberg has the weirdest freaking names. in his movies.
Stathis Borans.
Yes.
Stathis?
Yeah.
That's a first name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is weird.
Couldn't
And,
remember.
Yeah, what's her name too? Her
Oh, hers. She's Roxana or whatever. Roxanne.
Quaife is her last name.
Oh, I don't remember her last name.
Yeah,
I just
Ronnie
remember- I just remember
Veronica
Roxanne- Veronica and Ronnie.
Coffee or Queef.
I don't
something
remember
like
them
that.
saying her name.
Yeah,
Her last
yeah.
name. So that's not important in my life.
So
But I do remember them saying his last name.
Yeah, it was weird.
Stathis Borans.
yeah, I mean,
Of course, Seth Brundle.
yeah, and then you got Seth Brundle, but
Which is-
Brundle was named after like a race car driver or something like that. I don't know. But yes,
Sure.
so she's like, "Hey, this is the future. You
Yeah.
sent me for a story. I got a future story. I got something that's going to change the world." And he's like, "Whatever, you know."
It's a magic trick.
Yeah, he conned you.
I saw the same thing.
Yeah, I saw it outside of a mall in Pueblo. It's weird, right?
That was a real weird call out to Pueblo in that movie.
Yeah. So she's like, whatever, right? But he tracks her down, finds out where she works. He comes into the office,
Yeah.
and then he
Busts in.
says,
Well, he doesn't bust in.
well, technically,
The girl comes and brings
yeah.
him in.
Well, you already know that they have some sort of a past,
Yes.
home dude and her editor and everything. So they got something going on,
Right.
right?
And we'll find out more, Steve.
Right, stay tuned.
That's right.
So Goldblum comes in and he says, I got one word for you. Cheeseburger. She's like, okay. So I guess her
That's Jeff Goldblum magic right there.
right there, right?
I wonder if that was written in. It probably was, knowing
Yeah.
Cronenberg. But I can also see Jeff Goldblum just saying that.
Yeah, cheeseburger. You know, it makes me want to eat one right now.
I know.
You
Let's
know.
go. Cheeseburger.
So they're at obviously like a Burger King or something like that, right? And he's like, "Listen, you know,
Is
I
that
have
what
all-
it was? A Burger King?
It looks like it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't recognize.
or like a
that.
Wendy's or something. I
I don't know.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
yeah. But he's like, "Hey, you know, this could potentially change the world. I got a plan.
Right.
You stick with me the whole time. You get to see everything that I'm doing. Just don't tell anybody. And we're going to climax the whole story with me going through the teleporter,
You'll do a book rather than a magazine article or anything
Yep.
like that.
starring me, and you can film and you could do whatever." I mean, which is a great idea.
Yeah,
You know, he's like, all right, you know, I'm beaten on this part
Make
of
her
it.
a partner of some sorts, you know?
So you have the story of the century. This is going to make travel obsolete, you know, if we could perfect it.
Again, I'm just saying that, never mind.
Right.
I'm like, take the time.
Right.
Take the time. Market what you got.
Right.
Take the time to perfect it for what you wanted to do. There could have been some even measure there.
Yeah. Well, this one he kind of rushed it, and there's a reason. We'll get to that
of
too.
course.
Not like in the first one. The first one he was just like, "Fuck it, I'm going to do it."
Right.
Yeah, he has no like he's going
Screw you, family.
Dandelo. So the first thing that he tries to do with the organic matter, he's got a baboon.
Yeah, because that's where you start.
Right. There's two things my wife noticed in this, and I'll tell you on this one.
Okay.
She was like, "Where did somebody get a freaking baboon at?"
And how do you get two of them?
Right. Well, right. She's like, "Is there like a baboon store or something?"
think maybe at that time you could get. I had neighbors when I lived in Florida. Now I was super young that had chimpanzees.
See?
Yeah, so
But do you get them from like the science warehouse?
I don't.
You
I don't know the rules.
You have like a checklist, and
I assume it was the '80s, so there was just like people bringing them over like under the table. You know what I mean? Like nobody was tracking it.
Well, Bartok was big enough, and they probably did drugs and everything like
yeah.
that. So they probably
He's like,
got
get
them
me
for him."
some,
Right. That's what I
baboons."
thought. Yeah, I need
That makes sense.
live specimens. But then I was thinking, well, I mean, where do they fucking stay?
Yeah,
know?
you don't ever
And-
see them like in downtime.
Right. You only see their cage once.
Right.
And then
And you never hear them.
yeah, at one point they actually do go to some, outdoor mall or something like that where he buys her the necklace, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's where he gets them.
Oh, there you go. I like it.
He just gets them around the corner, right?
Right.
So, but that's his first trial with organics at this point.
Right. What happens to the baboon?
Oh, it gets turned
He's
inside
an
out.
inside out baboon.
Oh, it's disgusting.
It's fleshy.
Yes, because they're like they see him go through, and they're over at the other telepod, and boom, and it's like a bloody paw coming out.
Yeah.
So the thing was turned inside out.
Right.
So he's basically like, what the hell is going on, right? So he's laying on his couch bed, one of the most uncomfortable beds that you could ever lay in.
Yes, absolutely.
That's his bed. We find out that he wears the same suit all the time and everything like that, like Einstein did. Right. But Gina Davis is like, yo, I'm horny. And, basically it's like, you're pretty cute.
Yeah, she flipped the switch pretty quick.
Right. I mean, like instantly. She was like,
I'm on it.
I think I've only seen you like 2 days, but I want to bone you. You know what I mean? So she's
Jeff
like,
Goldblum.
Right. He's got that charisma.
Right.
And so, they get done with their fantabulous booty calling, right?
Yes.
And he actually rolls over on a piece of his
Like a circuit board.
Yeah, it was a microchip or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's a little foreshadowing to how the machine kind of screws him over. You know what I mean? In a weird way. But then he has this idea, thinking, "Oh, guess what? I know what it is." So because she brings over steaks.
Yeah.
She was planning on getting laid.
Yeah.
She had
going
food.
for it.
Yeah, she had
You bring
food
a man
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bring a man steaks, you're gonna bone him. You know what I mean? So, he gets up and he's like, I got it.
Yep.
So he cuts the steak in half, right? So he puts one through the telepod and then he cooks them both and he sits down and he says, okay, take a bite of this. She's like, could use some finesse. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Tastes like a steak, woman after my own heart likes steak, right? Luckily my wife does. She brought me steak too.
Nice.
So then he's like, here you go, try this one. And she's like, oh, God, take it out. Ugh.
Doesn't he tell her which one's which beforehand?
Yeah.
Like after she's eating the first one.
Yeah.
He's like, this is the synthetic one. That's not a good test.
But he doesn't tell her it's a synthetic one. He's just like, try this one.
Well, right,
This is the
right.
one that I sent through.
Yeah, that's what he says.
Yeah.
You're right. But he tells her that before she takes a bite.
Yeah.
So automatically in her head, she's going to be like,
Yeah. This is weird.
So I'm just saying it was a bad test for a scientist.
Yeah, right. He should have already gotten that one. I mean, and and she does say, I'm not eating that. There was a freaking dead baboon in there like 5 minutes ago. That's fucked up. You know
I
what I
like
mean?
how he offers it to her.
Yeah. He's like, here you go. And like he doesn't even take a bite.
No,
If
that's
he
what
took
I'm
a bite,
saying.
he'd be like, oh God, that sucks. You want to try it? It's like when somebody walks up to you and is like, oh my God, that stinks. You want to smell it?
Yeah.
No. So she's like, that's gross. And he's like, I get it now. He has that flash of brilliance. He's like, okay, the steak that you had was a recreation that the computer made of a steak, but it has no idea what a steak is.
Right.
So I need to teach the computer what organics are, how this works, because it's an interpretation is what they're putting over there. So if it's inorganic, the interpretation is going to be the same.
Right.
Because it's very simple.
And he even says like, apparently I don't know enough.
Yeah, about the flesh.
So I've got to learn it.
And that's when she was like, "Oh, I want a bone."
Yeah.
Let
me show you the flesh.
Yeah, yeah. So he's got the confidence. For one, he just got laid. For two, he just ate some steak. For three, he's got a badass computer that like teleports shit.
I mean, all that's true, but I think you're missing the boat with the steak. He ate free steak.
Oh yeah, that is the winner right there. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, mm-hmm.
Free steak. And got laid. And got a computer I could talk to.
I know, right?
What? In
Come on.
1986?
Right, on your couch bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what's up with that, man?
I know. Yeah. He didn't want to have to think about where he's going to sleep.
There's no way he slept on that all the time because his posture would have been terrible.
Right. So, I mean, they kind of get more into it a little bit more, and she is getting like muscled by the douchebag, right? And she's like, "Oh,
John Getz,
he freaks out. He's like, "Oh, so you're fucking him now?" And he's like, "What, dude? Come on." She's like, "We're over," because he shows up at her apartment.
Yeah. He's like showering in her apartment
Who does that?
because he felt grimy or something.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I felt a little gross while I was across town." So nobody does that shit.
No.
He just wanted her to see his wang, so maybe he could get lucky, right? But she was already boning Jeff Goldblum, so she was
just
like,
shut him down.
she was like, "I'm done. Close for business."
She's like, "Get out of here, John Getz."
John, don't get none of this. Give me the key. And he's like, "Nope, I'll keep it for sentimental reasons." What? Right? She's like, "Are you leaving or am I?"
And this is her boss.
Right. And so, she comes back to the lab, right? They're celebrating after they do the next test, right?
Right.
So they do the baboon test, and this is after, probably a couple of weeks of learning different things.
About
and
the flesh.
Exactly. They're boning all the time, right?
Boning and learning about the flesh.
Correct.
That's what they do.
And the computer is
Sometimes at the same time.
because they're never alone with the computer in there. So,
It's Hal.
so
The
yeah.
iteration of Hal.
So they put the other baboon in there, and you're thinking, there's another one. Where is he going to get all these baboons from?
Right.
And teleports it over. Guess what? The baboon jumps out straight onto Jeff Goldblum.
And he's like the happiest.
He's
both
like,
of them.
yes. He even kisses it and shit. So they're celebrating, drinking some champagne. She looks on the top of the piano, and it's a freaking big giant packet.
Before that happens, he says that it's going to take a few weeks.
We need to
because
get
we
this
have
stuff back.
Have him tested and make sure everything comes back that he's normal.
Right. And she's like, well, let's go on a trip.
Yeah.
She's already bought him clothes,
Yeah.
like a different outfit.
By the jacket, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she had a whole bunch of other clothes, and that's when Home Dude freaks out and it's like, "You're the queen," and like freaking Wayne's World's them.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of the freaking
Old John Getz, the only other actor in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Next to the one dude that has the craziest look whenever he starts like fucking with her in the store.
Oh yeah.
That the one black guy that's working at the place, like he has the craziest look on his face whenever like he starts to insult her, and he's like, "Huh?" Like, what the? That's weird. So she sees that deal on the top of and it's basically, she opens it up. She's like, "Huh." He was like, "Don't you work for that guy?"
He's like, "Yeah, I forgot to tell you this came from your."
Yeah, from your magazine. So she opens it up, and it's him, right?
Jeff Goldblum.
Goldblum on the cover with like, is teleportation real? It's like how did that guy? This is the crazy part about that whole cover, right?
Okay.
He's wearing the jacket that she bought.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like,
maybe they just got a picture of him out on the street.
Right.
And he's like,
and it
going
was
to
like
dinner, and they're like,
and I got him this London fog jacket.
Right.
They found a London fog that matched and like was like, draw it like this.
Right.
Right. So Betty down in freaking design was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Let's make it spacey. She's like, "I gotta go. I'm gonna go tell this dude off once and for all again."
She's like, "Yeah, I gotta scrape what's my remnants of my old life off my shoe."
Yeah, and then
like that.
He's like, "Okay, I'm ordering Chinese food."
Yeah, because they're celebrating the baboon living through the teleportation.
Right.
So it's a big deal.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, the baboon was still alive. Not all like didn't have the brain scrambles.
He wasn't inside out.
He did.
Sorry about your brother.
He's sorry. And so
I don't know why Jeff Goldblum just got real British right there.
I don't know. But yeah, she goes over there, and he's like, okay. You know what? You win. Let's do this.
Just keep me in the loop.
Yeah, just make sure that I'm in there. So he seems like a good guy at that point, right? But
he's kind of douchey.
There's some still sinister stuff left in there. So while she's gone, he's talking to the baboon like it's his best friend. He's like, "Hey, quit picking your butt." So it's obvious she was seeing that guy They were old lovers.
And he's just drinking more champagne.
Right. And he's like shooting it.
Yeah.
Like he's pouring a glass out. You see him down in that shit, right?
Champagne.
And champagne, he must not drink that much because he got loaded off half a bottle.
Yeah.
You know, enough to where he was like, you know what? I'm going to do this.
I'm not waiting 3 weeks for
He's
test
like,
results.
He's like, you look okay.
I can see you. You look fine.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not inebriated.
Yeah. The one, I mean, he's a freaking scientist, you know, and he's just like, I'm going to do it.
Right.
I guess fortune favors the bold, but not in this case.
No.
So, you know, you get that little foreshadowing because the baboon is basically the flies going around his head. And
Yeah,
he's like, zzz. He's like, ugh.
So he actually told how they did that. Somebody asked him in the crowd in one of the interviews I listened to, and obviously there's no CGI back then. Like that's how you would do it now, obviously.
Right.
So they actually had real flies with translucent, like a string, where they could move them around.
Wow.
And I was like, that's dedication.
No crap.
Yeah.
Man, that's like magnifying glass.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this little bitty spot of glue right here, and they can still fly.
Yeah. I don't know if that was humane. I don't know how they did it.
I don't know.
It's
At least
a
they
fly.
weren't trying to put, yeah, right. At least they weren't trying to put antlers on a mouse.
Right. Yeah. With staples.
Yeah, staples.
Mm-hmm.
So he strips down, and so he goes in and does his, you know, like Rodin pose, where he's like, right, and he's like, "Wish me luck." So that's when the fly is like, yep. It's inside the deal. It goes through, and he's like, he comes out, and he's like, "All right," and I mean, he's like Lord of the freaking jungle at that point. He's like Tarzan, because the baboon runs over and like jumps in his
Like
arms,
and he catches it like one hand.
Yeah, I know. He's like, yes, alpha male. So basically, he doesn't realize what's happening. She comes back at that point, and he's like, yeah, I went through. Oh, okay. You did it without me? He's like, come on, you can do it too.
Test? And he's like, I videotaped it.
Yeah.
And
I
she's like,
videotaped it for
"Aw,
you. Thank you.
Thanks, baby.
He's like, I feel great. I feel like I could do anything, because like he knows something's up, because he wakes up the next day and he's sitting in the chair and he starts doing some other stuff. Right. This is the second thing my wife noticed. Okay. So, you know,
he had a gym bar inside his room.
Right. She's like, that is one strong pipe. You know
It
what I mean?
didn't even look like a pipe. It looked like he had gym bars set up in there, like
he was going to do pull-ups or something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So she's like, who has that kind of shit in their house? That shit would fall apart. You know, how is he going to do that? You know what I mean? So he's like doing a spinny shit, and he's all of a sudden he's a gymnast.
Right.
Whatever he's thinking, he can do.
Yeah.
And you know,
running on the ceiling and.
Right. He can do whatever he wants to. So this is the beginning of the change.
Yeah.
He has no idea that this stuff is happening. So he's like, you gotta do this. And she's like, fuck you. No. She's like, I am not. No. He's like, it's like it made me better somehow.
Well, and I think at one time he theorizes that it basically purges everything that's not you out of you and makes you like your best form.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it like
says
totally reconstitutes you in a better way.
In the more perfect way.
Yeah. And because he's sitting at the coffee place, and he's just dumping sugar in his shit.
Yeah.
She's like, you want some coffee with your sugar?
And he doesn't even acknowledge it.
He's like,
just
"Nah." And then he takes another drink, and then he's like, I want a cannoli.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, he's like, come on, waiter, boom. And so he starts freaking out, right? But he's insatiable too. Like Gina Davis is like, oh my God, how can you go all day like this? You know, he's like, oh, I just want a bone.
You should get in here.
Come on, you're going. We'll be the perfect couple. Okay. That's when she's like, nah, fuck off, dude. So he goes, he's like, don't be a fucking drag.
Yeah.
I mean, he like freaks
snaps.
out. Yeah. And puts on his leather jacket. And
She bought him.
Yeah, that she bought him with no shirt on underneath it. And
As you do.
yeah, and some slip-on loafers, some penny loafers. in his khaki pants.
It hits the town.
And he goes out to find all the Zag nuts that he can.
Right.
Because he's eating some sort of chocolate bar, right?
Choco something. They mention what it is, don't they, in the bar? That guy's eating Choco. Maybe it was just chocolate. I don't know.
Yeah, he's eating his chocolate bar.
Yeah, maybe that was what it was.
So he finds like the shittiest bar in town, right?
It's not good.
It's not. It's like the worst, right? There's like one biker dude and a couple of other freaking bar flies.
And the two dudes arm wrestling.
Yeah, and he walks by and he just
and
sits
the one
there.
girl.
Yeah.
In the whole bar.
Yeah, then he starts striking up a conversation with her while he's eating a candy bar and drinking a scotch.
Right.
You know, and he's like...
Well, he's pretty confident. He feels real good.
Right, right.
He just did gymnastics. And
yeah.
had sex for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
And he's not done.
And he got free steak.
And he got free steak. I mean, come on.
Like a couple of weeks before that. So
perfect. This is my life.
And a baboon jumped in his arms. You know? He literally is on top of the world. So he looks at her. He's like, well, so who's going to win? Oh, I like so-and-so. Where are you going to go home with him? Yeah, because I like him tonight. He's like, okay, I'll bet you $100 I can beat you.
And I get to take her home.
Yeah. And she's like,
do I look like a hooker? And he just stares at her.
He doesn't even answer. Yeah. Yeah.
And I wanted, it's almost like you just wish Christopher Walken would have walked in and said, if the shoe fits.
If the shoe fits. And Goldblum kind of gets into his little ticky thing.
Yeah.
So they get into the arm
that was
wrestling.
a great moment.
Yeah, I know.
Look out for that.
Yeah, I know. He's like, yep. So they get into the arm wrestling part, and Goldblum's just like straight up sitting, just staring, and the other dude's like, oh, this guy's gonna eat chocolate bars until he wins. Oh, what? Idiot.
Yeah. It's like the dumb stuff the guys said behind the Karate Kid in the first one. You know what I mean? Like the bad guys. Like
Yeah.
all Johnny's friends.
Yeah. It's like, oh, he eats French fries. Yes.
Damn you.
You like tacos, huh? Actually, I do. Is that supposed to be an insult? Looks like you bathed today. Yes, I did. Again, thank you. Those are some cool shoes. All right, man.
Exactly.
So he gets into it, and he breaks the dude's freaking arm out of his freaking flesh,
like the forearm.
And before the dude's even like, the guy's like, he grabs a woman and he's like, let's go to my place.
Right. And she does.
Because, he did what Gina Davis did at the very beginning.
Yeah.
He had confidence. He's like, let's bone.
Yeah.
So he takes her back, and then all of a sudden she's just like wearing a jean jacket.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, you go through this. She's like, no, screw you.
Right.
I ain't going through that shit. It's like, no, do it. You'll feel better.
Like he's taking her to go do it.
Right.
And that's when, hi-ya, Gina Davis pops up.
Right.
She's like, don't do it.
Yeah, don't listen to him. And she's like, oh, I get it.
And he's like, I live with my mother too. Because the girl had said that she lives with her mother.
Yeah. Oh, I live with my mom too. Mm-hmm. She's like, I get it. And then she's
like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah. Had a great night. Later. Mm-hmm. Thanks for the steak.
The tube steak.
So she gets into a big argument, and he's like, all you got to do is do this. Will be the ultimate everything. She's like, there is something terribly wrong right now. With you, everything is wrong. You're not the same person that I knew before. You went through this deal, everything like that, right? So,
is this the part where she says she had the hairs? Did we miss that?
Well, yeah, they find the hairs in the back, on the back where his wound was.
Right.
And she cuts it. And yeah, it was like the next day.
Yeah, she comes back and she's like, I got the results.
Yeah. Where did you go?
Lori pops up.
Yeah. It's like, you are not the Fly. But he is the father. Yeah. So yeah, he's like, whatever, piss off, and she goes crying back to her editor, right? Yeah. So home dude's like, yeah, I told you, you know what? That's all that I needed to know. While he's got a really cool ass Maserati car too,
Right.
because he like staked him out at one point. It was like, you're screwing him, huh?
Yeah, he's a little creepy.
Yeah. So, of course, Goldblum, like, basically his face is all changing now. He's having all these weird mannerisms and everything like that. He's having these weird tics.
I think the first point where I noticed his face changing was during the arm wrestling match.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yep. It was like right before he left. You could see that his face was kind of, I don't know, it was like, it almost looked deteriorating or like he was breaking out really bad or something like that.
That's what I thought. He looked like he was breaking out on one side real bad.
Right. So after Gina Davis leaves, right, and is talking with the editor and everything, he's in the bathroom, and he's like chewing on his fingernail.
Yeah.
Like looking at himself because he's like actually paying attention at this point. And he bites his fingernail out.
Yeah.
Not off, out.
Out.
And then he pulls the other one out. And then he squirts some freaking like weird, I don't know.
Bug juice.
Yeah, some white bug juice all over the mirror.
Yeah, who knows?
He's like, oh, this
Whatever
is
flies
weird.
secrete. Maybe it's sticky stuff.
Right.
I guess.
I don't know what that is. Yeah.
They have the little, like, spiders have the little tactile, I don't know what the word I'm trying to say, but almost like hooks.
Yeah.
There's
So
a lot
they
of
can,
them.
yeah.
Very small.
But
I don't know how it works for flies.
Right.
They're gross.
Yeah. Because like right before that, he grabs the shaver and he tries to shave off one of the hairs, and it's like he's like, shit, throws it and like destroys it. Right.
Well, because she even said when she cut those off, like they're really coarse and really tough.
Yeah.
She was like using scissors.
Yeah. It was like, like she was cutting off toenails and shit.
Right.
So he's sitting there basically in front of the computer with his gloves on again, and he's like typing in there, and he's like, so what happened? So he finds out that there was another, thing in there, and it was a fly.
Right.
So he's like, son of a bitch.
Right. It ain't good.
That's not good.
It's not what you wanted. And because he tries to figure out what happened to the fly, and then it says fusion.
Yeah, which is like,
so they fused their DNAs together.
This is the biggest difference between the original and this one.
Right, 100%.
Because they get into that. It's like he was at the peak of human physicality for like a couple of weeks, right? And then he diverges down. Hey, what's up? Huh?
Really? Awesome. Come on in. Sit down. Grab a microphone.
No.
No? Okay. Talking about The Fly from 1986.
The Fly, 1986. You can hear me that. You tired?
Have a good time?
Happy birthday. Late birthday.
What were you thinking, Brock?
What's today, the 3rd?
Oh. The day after her birthday?
Well, what's today? Well, what's right now? What time is it?
Oh, no, not yet. We got 14 minutes.
That's right. It's almost there.
Love you.
No, we're going to leave it in. We'll just slow it down.
We'll slow it down. Love you.
Okay. Huh? Dang, where was that at?
Oh, that's cool. It's in Kingsburg. Is that the observation deck?
One of you just walk. You're like 30 feet in the air.
That's fucking cool. How far away is that? Sometimes 45 minutes is a long way, but 2 hours is like half the day. Oh, so it's like a bridge?
Yeah, it's like you walk on like this big trail way, whatever. Big metal thing up in the air when the rain's coming down.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like 3 miles long.
Damn.
Like it's a mile and a half down and a mile and a half back.
Oh, right on.
What's it called?
It's the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Oh, so all the animals are underneath you, right? Technically. Damn, that thing can't climb that thing?
No.
What is that?
We see like groups of bears.
Really?
Like hanging out together
Nice.
and stuff. There's like moms and babies and, well, not babies, but like moms and their kids. You know?
Right.
They have 450 animals.
Wow.
And they're all like from
Oh, wow.
people's homes.
Oh, yeah, the one that bought the people that bought them, and so they're like Carol Baskin.
They have 39 of her tigers.
For real? Damn.
That's a lot of tigers.
That, you know what? After I remember them talking about that on that show, how after that they put them in Colorado. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, that was during the pandemic.
I never
so
saw that show.
You never did?
No.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. That's what everybody said.
Joe Exotic.
You know how, do you have a cat?
No, I've had cats before.
Like stock, you know? So like this tiger is like behind this pool thing. He like runs around and like they're like kind of flirting with each other or whatever.
Right on.
Yeah. So like this section is like, okay, we rescued you from a basement, right?
Right.
That's been your existence. So then we'll put you in a small enclosure, and then you can get used to that.
Sure.
And, you know.
That's cool.
Slowly progress.
Right on.
Okay, sorry.
That's all good.
No, it's good.
Love you. Not 100% sure where we were.
This is okay. This is whenever. All right, so he learns that the fusion happened. So what happens is like Gina Davis. She's like at home, and he calls her because it's been a certain amount of time. They don't really tell you how long it is or anything like that. So they have this certain amount of time, right, that passes, I guess 3 or 4 weeks or something like that, right?
Sure.
I think he mentioned something like that. Like, this is what I've been doing the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, so you're right. There was something wrong. But I have to show you. You need to come over. And she's like, oh, you can tell me. Nope. You got to come over. So she goes over, and then you get to see the very first iteration.
I think that in that conversation is the first time that they kind of pay homage to the old movie, and he says, the help me, please.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. He's like, help me, please. Help me. Help me. Yeah. So she goes over there and notices that the place is a freaking pigsty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just bad. Just full of sugar snacks and gross crap,
Yeah, just everywhere. Trash everywhere.
So he's basically like, okay, this is what happened. There was a fly in the telepod, and it merged our DNA. So I think I am becoming something else. I'm no longer me. I'm
no longer the fly. I'm the Brundlefly.
Yes. Yeah. He does that a little bit afterwards.
Oh, is that afterwards?
Yeah. But this is the whenever he's just like, okay, so, and then like he
right, yeah.
Doesn't he grab a donut at that point? And he's like, here you go. And then she's like, nah, I don't want one. And he's like,
yeah, and he pukes on it.
And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, that was gross.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. And I mean, even after that, she hugs him.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that's gross. You won't eat the donut, but you'll hug the dude? That's fucked up. So
none of the above.
It's gross. It was just gross.
Yes.
So, and then she films him eating, But they don't show that. He's like, this is how Brundlefly eats.
Right.
You know, this is on the wild world of something, you know, I mean, it's kind of playing around with it. And he's like, "Bleh," and you can only see it. And then Home Dude's watching it
Right.
at her house while she, I guess, went to go get bread or something. I don't know. She walks through the front door, and douchebag is at her house.
Okay.
Watching the
Watch
video.
the video.
She must have gone out or something like that to go get something, like I said, bread or something. So she comes back and she's just like, she's devastated. She's crying. She sits down in the bathroom, which she's got a chair in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I was like, is that where she keeps her magazines? You know, I mean, there's no guy that lives there. You know what I mean?
Maybe that's where she sits while she puts on a face.
Oh, that, or like paints her toenails and stuff.
Yeah,
What women do, yes. So he comes in there and he's like, so you need to stay away. That's it. Just, don't ever go back. She was like, I have to. No, you don't. He's like, I'm pregnant. So, yeah, she got the Brundle impregnation.
Right.
And it's pretty freaky, to think that he got merged that way. She sees him like that, and now she's pregnant with his baby.
Yeah, and you don't know. I mean, they were boning for a while, so it could have been from before that.
Could have been before, or it could have been after.
Right.
Because he was more of a potent alpha male, at that point. So, he must have impregnated her at that point, before he broke the dude's hand.
When we get the delivery.
Yeah. She's like, I want it out of me now. So they drive up to the deal, and the dude's like, all right, it's late at night. What are you here for? Well, we need to get rid of this. Is it yours?
Well, yeah, he goes to tell her first, though.
Yeah.
She goes to tell him, rather.
Yeah. And she's like, nope. He can see her because again, he's transformed into something else, a little bit grosser.
Right.
At that point. He's crawling on the ceiling and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, look what I could do. It takes a little while. It takes a little while to master it, but look what I could do. So he's like walking across
And they actually made a rotating room for that.
Kind of like
so the camera was basically like on the other side, and the whole thing would rotate.
Like a Lionel Richie.
Yeah, you're dancing on the ceiling.
Yeah, right. Like a Lionel Richie video.
That's right.
So
that's where they got all the magic.
Right. So she's like, no, and he's like, come on, you have to stick around. You have to do it. She's like, no, I'm pregnant. And he's like, no, he doesn't find out. He only sees her standing by the Maserati, right? And he's on the roof, watching from above. And she's like, I don't care. And he's like, it's too late at night. The douchebag's like, it's too late. We can't do anything. Let's wait till tomorrow. She's like, no, screw this. I want this baby out of me, right? Because she does wake up,
right?
Right before she goes to tell him. And because she has that freaking wicked ass dream, where she gives birth to a maggot.
Bunch in here,
yeah,
and then
he's
giant ass maggot comes out.
She's like, oh, there's more in here. More? What is it? What is? And the whole time she's like, no. She's like still fighting it, like she doesn't want to do it, but yet she's doing it, and so. Yeah, so she basically wakes up like, holy crap, this has got to. I'm not giving birth to a freaking maggot. That's weird, right? So I think he sees her from up there and is like, whoa, wait a minute, she's pregnant? They go to the doctor late at night, and so Home Dude's reluctant, and he's like, don't worry, this will be over here in just a second. Just, change into this, and I'll be right back. Brundlefly jumps through the freaking room, right?
Through the glass.
Yeah, breaks through those little glass tiles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I remember about this movie the most. I think in the preview, they had that scene where he was jumping through.
They're like glass cubes or whatever.
Yeah. And so she's like, no. She's a damsel in distress at this point.
Right.
And he grabs her and just like starts jumping and shit. And he's like, please don't. If you get rid of this baby, you get rid of me. There's nothing left of me. I don't have anything. I'm nothing anymore.
Right.
You know, this is the last piece of me. And if you do this, you're killing me. He's like, whatever, right? That's kind of, is very, very heavy.
Yeah.
You know, because he does see his humanity in that part of it, right? And he's
Right.
like, we just can't do this, you know? So he takes her back. He jumps down, right?
Yeah.
From the ceiling, right? He like runs over there, grabs her, jumps down. Ooh. And it's like, all right, now it's your turn.
Yep.
She's like, no. No. And he's like, come on, we'll be the best family in the world.
Yeah, because he's going to take them each in a separate pod and then fuse them together into one pod.
Into the prototype.
Right. It's a little clunky.
Mm-hmm.
So that all three of them will be fused into one being.
That's weird. Plus the fly.
Yeah.
There would be like
But
four.
they'd be 3/4 human.
Yeah, I guess.
Doesn't seem like that's how it works with the fly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. How would the brains work? You know?
Well, I think that's the trick, right? With any sort of gene thing is you don't know what your mutation's going to happen.
I wonder
every
if he.
time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder because he did do technically in the behind the scenes. There was a scene that they cut out that he actually did put two things together.
Yes, and then that would have made more like that would have kind of set everything up because you're kind of like this is out of nowhere,
right?
But yeah, it was a cat and a baboon, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
Dandela.
Yeah. So they merge into this weird, freaking like alien-looking creature
that attacks him.
Yeah, that he kills.
Yeah,
you know.
That was a pretty brutal kill scene too in that cut.
Cut
footage.
He was just like smashing him too,
yeah.
And then plus he grows another appendage and he bites it off.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Right?
Yeah, he like bites off his own, fly arm, which is weird. What the hell? So, anyways, that's she's like, no, it's not happening whatsoever, and doesn't she get away at this point, right? Or because when does Home Dude come in with the gun?
That's when Getz is coming in, right?
Well, he's in there before they get there.
Oh, that's right.
That's right, because he's already in there. Because he grabs like his shotgun.
Okay, and this is dumb. I'm just gonna say it right now. Who goes into a place and then puts the shotgun together?
That dude.
Especially when you know there's some weird creature guy.
Right. That dude.
That dude dumb.
And it's totally nonchalant the way he does it too. It's like he's hello. I guess I'm alone.
And then the fly jumps down and like just.
Yeah, it starts to kick the crap out of him, right?
And then starts puking acid on his arm when he's trying to use the shotgun.
Right.
And it just melts away to
melts his
like
hand.
a bloody, fleshy nub.
Oh, it's so gross.
And then he does his foot. And that one goes faster, actually. I thought that was kind of weird.
It like ate through everything, but it doesn't go through the gun because the gun's like right underneath. Yeah. So the dude's like in total shock.
Right. As you would be.
Yeah, the D-bag's in shock. Gina Davis is already like in one of the telepods, right? No. That's not yet.
Oh, okay.
So they continue to fight, and he's pulling her, and all of a sudden, all the flesh is like falling off of his body, right? It's like.
And this is where we get our big monster reveal,
right? And she grabs him and is like pulls his jaw off.
Yeah, like when she pulls his mandible off, I was like, damn. Oh. And then that last one where it's like eyeballs and everything come off, I was like, oh, that's good stuff.
Yeah, and it's just he sheds his Jeff Goldblum suit.
Yes.
And it's like splat.
And now he's a fly monster.
Right. It's so gross. And it's like it's got the weird mandibles and shit like that too. And so Home Dude, because he puts her into the telepod. And then he goes to the other one because he said it for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? I guess that was enough time, for him to get defeated, And so he planned it out, like a James Bond villain kind of.
Well, I will say that douchebag dude, John Getz, is not that John Getz is a douchebag. The character he's playing, whose name I always forget.
Yeah, he always plays a D-bag.
Yeah. Does a pretty smart thing. He shoots, I don't know if it's practical, but he apparently knew that with that shotgun he could shoot out the cable to the telepod that she's in.
Right, because he's got an over and under double barrel.
So that way it doesn't matter what the timer does. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's pretty smart. I'll give him that if that's how science works.
Probably.
You know?
Yeah, he was probably thinking, I'm just going to shut off the power with this, which technically he does.
Just to
for
the one.
Yeah, except for the other telepod is still there.
Right.
And that's when, Brundlefly is trying to break out, like literally break out of the thing, right? So he gets the door open, 3, 2, and he's stepping out. 1, boom!
And he disappears.
He ends up in the other telepod, right? And it says on the computer, telepod and Brundle fusion or something like that, right? So
Fusion
it's
complete or successful or something.
So the door opens and he's like, I mean,
It's
and
just a mangled mess of.
And yeah, like the wires and stuff, like they the computer reconstructed the wires where he's like, it's like a weird tail.
Yeah.
It's like a weird thing. And it's fleshy and metal. It's an H.R. Giger painting come to life. You know what I mean?
Kind of, yeah.
It's just so gross and nasty. And Gina Davis is like, oh my God, right? So Home Dude's already passed out again, right?
She's got the shotgun.
She picks up the shotgun to walk over to it. And she's like, she just can't pull herself to do it anyway. But the Brundlefly grabs the gun and puts it up to his head.
Right.
That's pretty crazy because he's fused with metal. So, I mean, it's just his existence from then on out would be pain, So she finally does it. Boom.
Yep.
Blows his head off. And that's it.
End of movie.
That is the coolest, don't show what happens afterwards. Just end it.
Yep.
Just boom, done. And you're like, oh my God, that is so crazy.
So here's what I like to think. Is that douchebag editor guy, who's obviously in the science sector, is going to make a lot of money off the body of this dude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the company,
Bartok?
Yeah, Bartok Industries or whatnot. I think this guy's actually in part 2.
Oh, douchebag guy?
I think so.
Really?
I think so.
I don't think I've ever seen it, so that'll be a first one for
You've
me when we
never
start
seen-
our dropping deuces.
You've never seen part 2?
Not that I remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really weird.
I'll tell you though, this is one of my favorite sci-fi monster movies of all time.
Yes.
It's a classic. It's a true classic.
Yeah, it goes really fast. It keeps you not necessarily guessing. You know what's going on, but you don't know how it's going to play out.
Right. I thought everybody in it, even douchebag guy, John Getz did a great job.
Right.
Yeah. I again don't want to assume that he is a douchebag.
Right.
He just plays one well.
He plays one on TV.
Right. Not a douchebag in real life, but I play one on TV.
Well, there's an original ending where I think basically there was like some weird, like she gave birth to a butterfly or some shit like that. I don't know.
I think there was a couple different endings that they tried out, and they were like, nobody liked that in the theater. But I think you are right. One of them was where she gave birth to butterfly baby. I don't know what that was about. But I think the biggest one was probably the monkey cat.
Yeah.
Baboon cat.
Yeah.
He even corrects her. Or corrects somebody at some point and says baboon.
Yeah. But it's so, like, I don't know. It's supposedly it was a metaphor for, Cronenberg was saying it was a metaphor for all kinds of just like growing old,
disease, and of course because of the culture at the time, I mean that was like the height of the AIDS epidemic, so a lot of people thought it was that, and he's like, no, it's more general, death in general, like losing your teeth and all those things.
It kind of all went through everything.
Yeah,
it's weird,
and that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think he even said something like, it would adapt to whatever was going on, like whatever epidemic at the time.
Right.
He could see where that was taken that way. But they won an Academy Award
Yeah, for best makeup.
for best makeup. Yeah, which is awesome.
A Hugo Award for Jeff Goldblum for best actor. Saturn Award. No, that was a Saturn Award for best actor. Best makeup and best horror film won the Saturn Awards too.
Well, and that's what I think I mentioned this earlier. Chris Wallace, that's the makeup artist, the guy that won whatever his job was, being the makeup guy.
Yeah, Chris Wallace.
Yes, he directed The Fly too. So we will soon be able to see what he had in his whatever.
Well,
see if he's any good. I kind of doubt it.
The original Fly 2, the proposed one, was supposed to basically have Gina Davis reprising her role.
Mm-hmm.
She was supposed to give birth, right, to a like a normal kid or something like that, and it was going to change. And Jeff Goldblum, they reconstructed his consciousness inside the computer, and they were holding his consciousness hostage somehow.
Okay.
To where he was doing things for them inside the computer, right?
Okay.
And at one point, he has to reconstruct himself. Gina Davis dies or something like that, and he has to reconstruct himself from the computer somehow. Okay. So it was a little bit more sci-fi, much better than what we got for a part 2.
Yeah, maybe this Chris Wallace should have stayed in makeup. Because he did like Gremlins, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Scanners,
even Rob Bottin.
Virtuosity.
Oh, for real? Yeah. Yes. Even Rob Bottin, right?
Right.
Put in his bid for the effects on this, and they're like, nope.
Really?
Yep.
Nice. They did a great job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, they won the Academy Award and all that. But
right.
I think they did a good job, whether that was there or not. But yeah, great movie, man. I recommend it highly.
I honestly think that again, this has to stand as one of the greatest remakes of all time.
Yes,
of anything.
One thing I didn't mention is they do pay homage to the first one when he says. He doesn't say disintegrate or integrator, but he uses both of those in like a longer sentence.
Yeah, you disintegrate this, and we reintegrate it over here.
It's like, ooh, hey,
whoa, yeah,
cool.
So there was obviously a love for the other movie that they kind of put in there, and
it was definitely just from a different place. You know what I mean?
A gross place?
Well, it's more the mutation of a person into a fly monster.
Instead of just like, oh, now you got a fly head.
Yeah. It's like overnight you get a fly head and a fly arm.
Whoops.
Instantaneously.
And one of them has a mind of their own.
Right.
And it's not the fly head. Which, don't get me wrong, love The Fly, the original.
But we'll get into The Fly too in the near future. But how many baboons do you give this out of 5?
I would say 5 out of 5 baboons from me.
Okay.
Just because, like I said, as a remake, and Jeff Goldblum was awesome. This is the one thing that I remember him the most, honestly.
Yeah.
Maybe Dr. Malcolm. But this right here is the one that I saw as a kid, was like, damn.
Right.
This is the same year that Aliens did come out. And 86 was a big year in movies.
Right. Your favorite Friday the 13th came out that year.
Mm-hmm. And I think that was the year that I chose for my greatest 1980s year for releases.
I believe that is correct because I chose the next year, 1987.
87. But honestly, this was...
Check that out in the archives.
Yes.
So you give it 5 out of 5 baboons? I am going to give it 4 and 1 inside out baboon. So like 4.5 baboons.
And 1 inside out one.
Yeah, I really, really like this movie. It's definitely probably my favorite remake of all time.
Oh my God.
I can't think of anything that would top it. 4.5, which is a high score.
Yeah. This is just such a great movie. It's so Everything looks really good in this movie too. Like they don't have a lot of different set pieces. There's not a lot of movement with everything. It doesn't have to be like fluid. Right. Everything is very stock. I guess. Yeah. I guess that's the best way to put it.
I think they keep it kind of minimalist as far as sets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we have the laboratory apartment set.
Mm-hmm. You have the bar.
The bar.
Gina Davis's place.
And the office.
That's it.
That's it.
Oh, doctor's office.
Yeah, but again, I mean, that's easy to do.
You could do that all in a derelict building.
Yes, 100%.
That was on floor 2.
Right.
That was the rest of the set.
That's because your friend has a buddy that's a dentist, and he's like, yeah, you can use my office.
Yeah, exactly. It reminds you of a dentist office, doesn't it? That's one of the, those... I always, whenever I see those glass bricks, I always think of The Fly. I always think about it. Music was good in it. Everything was great in it. And Jeff Goldblum was the total shit in this movie.
Yeah, it was a really good movie for sure.
Yeah. So, with that, everybody, we're at the end.
And I've been Dan.
I am Brock. Yeah, I'm Brock.
So yeah.
And hit us up on all those socials. Go to the website, dropculture.com, and send us what your favorite remake of all time is.
Maybe because we are going to have a top 5 remake episode coming up. Foreshadowing. But we could read some of your top 5.
Yes.
Or your favorite one, whatever.
Yeah, send them at dropculturepodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, or on the socials or on the whatever makes you happy. Smoke signals, we don't care.
Correct.
Just don't burn down Colorado, please.
Yeah. Send a letter.
Yeah.
We'll give you an address. Send it to City Hall, addressed to us. Manitou Springs, Drop Culture Podcast. They're like, who's this? And we're like, that's us.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Elvira's going to come out and give it to us. All right, guys. We'll see you later.
Peace.
There's only an hour and a half.
It's not bad at all.
Mm-mm.